Today we're going to talk about the application architecture and more specific about the routing. So we are all good writing frameworks, writing logic code. It's flexible, qualitative, and testable. But what happens when we are dealing with UI? Here we are subclassing every day. Our code becomes very much stateful. Also, presentation layer is one of the hardest to test in our application. So, as you already understand, today we're going to talk about him, UIViewController. UIViewController is one of the most usable ways to interact with users. It also is an opposite of isolated because it's connections through the application. It has too many responsibilities, and developers are always looking for ways to separate them. So to separate their responsibilities, there's a couple of architectural patterns, MVC, MVVM, Viper, and VIP. So just for personal statistic, how many of you are using MVVM? Raise your hands, please. OK, 3 hands. Next one, Viper. Somebody tried. Thanks, guys. I wait for this. And VIP, or also named Clean Swift. Did somebody try it already or not? OK, we will go through this. OK, let's take a quick look to each one of them. MVC, there is a mistake on the slide. Does somebody see it? Yeah. Yeah, sure. That's not model view controller and massive view controller. This is default architectural solution that iOS comes with, and all developers are using it sometime. And the next one is MVVM. There is a new component, view model. It takes all the business logic from the view controller and basically hundreds of lines of code from view controller becomes hundreds of lines of code from view model. So view model offers better testability, but it has too many responsibilities. There the Viper comes. Viper presents an UI model where all responsibilities of view controller are separated into individual components. This solves a lot of problems. It offers better testability, abstraction, isolation, and so on. However, another problem appears. There are too many files, too many interfaces, too much boilerplate code. Especially transition from the view controller to interactor. It have to go through presenter because it's architecture. Based on these inconveniences, the VIP or Clean Swift appears. I cannot name the VIP as a separate architectural pattern. It's rather than a subclass of Viper. It holds the same components, just redefines the interaction between them. As we can see, we obtain the unidirectional flow. Look at the arrows from view controller, interactor, and presenter. This also makes the name of the architecture VIP. So all of these make us feeling like when we are starting a new project, we are thinking, this time I will build things the right way. But sometime later, we woke up with this. And we're like, this happens again? Why? I know such a lot about the architecture and so on. So let's think about this. Why? Why this is happening all the time? I will show you a simple use case. There is an application with simple flow, 3 view controllers, A, B, and C. We know how to do it. We just write some code and ship the application. Then the new flow appears. As we can see, there are 2 new view controllers and 2 existing ones are reused. So we know the statements, also depend on the flow. We will rewrite the in and out connections and again ship it. Then the application grows up and the new flow appears. The more controllers are reused, so we cannot use the same way to I don't know, to decide which flow is now running, to decide the in and out connections, so on. We are facing the mess inside our view controllers. So, why this is happening? Why the proposed architectural solutions doesn't help us to deal with this? First of all, why router? Why do we need the UI model to know its in and out connections? Why there is a such component in the architecture like router? This violates the principle of isolation that is good described in the perfectly described in the well-known architecture, the clean architecture article from the Bob Martin. As we can see, the UI is on the external circle, and the use cases, in our case, they are flows. They are in the inner circle, and there are no connection between them. This is the way we want to interact with UI. We want to play with view controllers like with simple cars that we can put wherever we want them. So let's rethink what the interface is. The interface is just the way we interact with users. So basically, it's something that must be initialized with a configuration, and then to return some result of the interaction with user. So let's define it in code. Interface, configuration, result, like callback. Okay, everything fine. This is the implementation in Swift. Because the result is specific for each view controller, it will be a generic parameter. So the view controller will be an abstraction and container for some result specific for view controller. But in this case, what we will do with navigation? We will also define an abstraction on it. Here the result will be the result of the flow and not for a specific view controller. Okay, but we are here to code, so let's do some live coding. I already prepared an Xcode project. Okay, now basically it does nothing, just the white screen. I will show you. Okay, phone 7 simulator. We will wait for it. Here are the implementation for generic view controller. Here is the run function that just called our build. That I will already explain what it does. Okay, just the white screen. Also, there is an abstraction on navigation controller and some more stuff that I already defined, but we will look into this later. First of all, I will show you the storyboard. I create 6 view controllers, A, B, C, D, E, F, and we will play with them. We will define the initializer for the A view controller. It will be a function like A view controller. It will take nothing. We will use the void as generic parameter just to simplify the things and to keep this example simple. So it returns a generic view controller with void inside. Here we have to return the view controller. We know that it has some completion. And we have to write some basic UI kit code. So let storyboard, everyone know this code. UI storyboard named, it usually named main, bundle is the current bundle. Now we will initialize our view controller. It will be just VC. And we will call the storyboard and initialize view controller with identifier. And I already put the identifiers the same as class names. And I am very, very sure about the type. So I'll use force unwrap. Okay, here we have onComplete callback. It's like a variable that is called when the user taps on the next button on the view controller. So based on this, we will define our flows. We see that onComplete equal completion. This is completion. Thanks a lot. Okay, and we will return the view controller. You see. Let's try to build this. Okay, it built. So how can we use it? Let's go inside the app delegate and try to load this as root view controller. So we'll call the window.root view controller equals our A view controller. And it basically returns our abstraction, but we have the run function, so we'll write the run, we will get the completion. Here is the closure, and we just will print some stuff like A, B, C, finished. Let's try to run it. It compiles, it runs. Let's see what we will get. Okay, A view controller. We just displayed the view controller, but we want more. So what if we want to put this view controller inside navigation controller? So we got an abstraction, and we will name the flow just flow 1. Basically, it will be navigation controller that takes an A view controller, and now we will run the flow and not the specific view controller. It also have run that's just called the build function. Okay, let's try to run this, and we'll see what's happening. It compiles. Okay, our simulator, and we got our controller inside the navigation controller. Okay, we want more, like always. We're developers. Let's define our flow. I will use some operators, and later I will describe them. So we want the first view controller to be A view controller, then we want C view controller, then we want B view controller, and so on. We can play with this a lot, but let's try to run it. Okay, what we got? So here are the A view controller, then C view controller, then B. Let's try to press next, C view controller, next, B view controller, and we will press next, and we'll print the message like the completion, and we're finishing our flow. So next. The message is here. Okay, we can build dynamic flows, but we want more again. Let's try to define the second flow. This will be flow number 2, that this also has this navigation controller, that will start with C view controller. And the next step will be B view controller, it's just regular stuff. And it will finish with F view controller. Okay, we can just replace these flows, and you know what will happen. We will just have another flow inside our application. Okay, there is a function. Okay, immutable value, that was never used. I guess there's warning. So let's see. Just another flow with CBF view controller. CBF view controller, when we are pressing the, here is the flow. Okay, what we have now? We have 2 flows, and we want to combine them. How? How we will do this? So let's define the transition. So because the result for the navigation are specific for the flow, we have to define a mapping that will transform our result from previous flow to the result for the next flow. So let's call it just flow 1 to flow 2. This will be a closure. It will take void, return navigation controller, again on void. And because we will just return the second flow, because it's already is a navigation controller on void. Flow 2. Okay, what we can do with this, I already defined a custom operator. Let's see how it works. Let post flows will be flow 1. Guess what? Plus flow 1 to flow 2. And let's try to run these flows. Basically what this operator does is just presenting one navigation controller above another one. We can customize this and get the different type of transitions dependent on your needs. Let's see how it works. So it will be ACB, and then it will be CBF. So ACB, and then the another navigation, CBF. And when we will press next, our flow will be finished. And a flow is finished. A little bit about the operators. So basically, it's a flat map on the navigation controller. So we got the navigation controller on A. We got a transition from A to view controller on B, and we got another navigation controller on B. This is for pushing the view controllers, and another one is for presenting view controllers. Also, it's a navigation controller on A, mapping function from A to navigation controller on B, and we will return the new abstraction on navigation controller. Under the hood, we are using the power of UI navigation controller. So if we will look at the implementation of the push, there is the navigation controller, that's regular UI navigation controller, and we are pushing the view controllers, just build it using that function that we defined. And also the present one, it's just present model, new flow. Okay, so let's return to our presentation. What have we learned? First of all, we learned to think more abstract about our presentation layer. Now we are playing with UI models in the way we want. We can put the view controllers anyway in the application, build dynamic flows. And this is very, very useful once we have the deep links, universal links that have built dynamic flows dependent on the URLs or something like this. On the other hand, we can separate the application logic. We can take the result of the flow outside the flow and deal the operations with core data or request and so on. So here you have some resources. There is a very nice article from Swifting.io about the architectural wars. There are also 2 talks from Chris Eindhoff about the functional view controllers. I recommend you to see them. And also 8light.com, the clean architecture, I think you all know. Questions?